It's funny how one verse can fuck up the game.
Nothing could have prepared the game for what would happen in 2024 with the viral challenge showdown between hip-hop titans Kendrick, Lamar, and Drake. But of course, there can only be one winner. With the fall of the Drizzlam Nation, left vacant a new regime to take the throne, the West Coast, led by their fearless revolutionary leader, King Avatar Okalama, cementing his spot with the West Coast classic album, a sold-out stadium tour, and the biggest Super Bowl halftime show in history. While Kendrick continues to dominate the field with little to no competition, there is one MC who hails from the East that has been watching all of this unfold in real time and has been itching for his turn to take the crown by force. Joey Jovan Badass, the best rapper to come out of New York since the blog era. When it comes to New York MCs, Joey really is the last of the Mohicans, a dying breed. Releasing the 2010s classic 1999 in the acclaimed album All-American Badass. In recent years, Joey has journeyed into other ventures outside of music, garnering acclaim in TV shows, movies, and modeling, even taking home an Oscar. But beyond his other avenues of success, Joey at his core is still that 90s Brooklyn, New York rapper that appeared on the scene at 17 years old. As the Drake saga would come to a close, things really took a turn this year when Joey would release his comeback single titled The Ruler's Back on January 1st, with light jabs noticeably aimed at Avatar Okalama and the West Coast Nation at large, with the line,
"Hey yo, too much West Coast dick licking."
Too much West Coast dick licking. This lit a fire under a plethora of West Coast MCs that quickly rushed to the booth to respond with numerous scathing diss tracks all aimed at the badass. Most notably responses from TDE Crash Out Rayvon, legendary battle rapper Daylyt, and rising star AZ Chike. You don't get to Lord of Frieza without going through the Ginyu Force first. If Rayvon, Daylyt, and AZ Chike are to be the Ginyu Force, and if Joey does in fact successfully take them all out, then the only next logical step would be for Lord Frieza, aka Okalama, to step down from his pedestal and protect the West Coast as the final boss, the king of the West. Due to the severity of the California fires, this war of words would quickly be put to bed almost as soon as it started, as bigger threats were at hand. However, months later, Red Bull, yes the drink, would drop a freestyle cypher onto their YouTube channel featuring Big Sean, Absol, and Joey Badass, setting the rap game ablaze and going viral. Now that the fires have died, Joey is asking for all the smoke. Joey would for the first time directly acknowledge both Daylyt and Rayvon in a verse, threatening to lyrically bomb on both.
I ain't gotta lose no sleep to break daylight. Shouldn't give you niggas time of day, but fucking shine a light on them, I'm a lightweight.
There probably hasn't been a cypher as impactful since TDE's 2013 BET cypher.
I'm about to crack the Da Vinci Code, yeah, and nothing been the same since they dropped control and tucked the sense of the rapper back in his pajama clothes.
Now that Joey has marked his targets, Rayvon would respond almost immediately the following day with his diss, Whole Era, which was a really effective West Coast bop, pointing fun at Joey's acting career, lack of music, and dubbing Ice Spice the King of New York. No, he has a point. This track was filled with humorous one-liners and high energy, but the victory, however, was short-lived. The tables would soon turn when Joey Badass would release his official response, The Finals, the next day. The whole song is basically just Joey sunning the fuck out of Rayvon, outclassing him in both power and lyricism, with cinematic New York-style production, just straight violation. But the most effective angle of the finals is how undeniable some of its bars are. In all honesty, Joey wasn't wrong about this being the moment of Rayvon's career up to this point. The diss track was lethal, it was homophobic, it was disrespectful. But even though Joey set the bar high, there's no way in hell that Rayvon goes out like that. He has the spirit of a fighter. As the world patiently waits for Daylyt's response, like Goku on Snake Way, the stakes got even more diabolical when Joey Badass would file an LLC to trademark the name TD East, even creating a website, a reference to the West Coast label Death Row, creating Death Row East during the height of the 90s East Coast West Coast feud as a way to directly compete against the New York hip hop record labels.
You believe in God?
Certainly.
Believe in Death Row East. Believe in that, for real.
This was a troll move to jab at Top Dog, but also a chess play. If Joey really does intend on using TD East as a record label, then TDE artists like Rayvon are only giving it that much more promotion by continuing to engage, as the game still awaits for Captain Daylyt to jump into the ring. None other than Reason would jump out of the woodworks with a diss track of his very own. Now, Reason didn't have the most lethal diss track towards Joey Badass. In fact, that shit was doo-doo, but that also wasn't his intention. Did he have a few jabs? Yes. But his diss was aimed more at New York as a whole than just Joey Badass himself, creating one of the biggest chain reactions in this battle to fuel the East Coast versus West Coast narrative. This motivated numerous other underground East Coast MCs to respond. 6 days later, since the release of the viral Red Bull Cypher, the legendary Daylyt would finally upload his long-awaited diss song, debuting with the music video shot in New York City. The track titled Word to Mem. While Daylyt displayed a level of lyrical gymnastics that were unparalleled so far in this battle, many fans found an issue with his flow in the production. Daylyt, coming from the world of battle rap, faces a common trope that many battlers face: battle rapper syndrome. Battle rappers tend to focus all of their stats into aspects like punchlines, entendres, and wordplay, that they so often neglect the other traits that make for a fully well-rounded effective rapper, which includes song-making, harmony, flow, and beat selection. Perhaps Joey's greatest advantage over Daylyt is that unlike the face-to-face live in-person battles that Daylyt is accustomed to, this battle took place on wax and removes Daylyt entirely out of his element. Later that night, Joey would respond the same day with the track My Town. Over glorious epic production, superb wordplay, and a surprise feature, Daylyt's battle rap arch rival, the legendary Loaded Lux. Not only did this diss sound sonically better than Daylyt's response, but it was also much more quotable and direct. While Joey would maintain his signature witty wordplay style, he didn't make it an effort to go so far over heads that they failed to land, successfully balancing that long to mid-range pocket of lyricism. Joey's power level was increasing by the day, and he'd shown to be a more formidable opponent for the West Nation than we initially thought. The same day that Daylyt would drop his response, West Coast native AZ Chike dropped a diss of his very own, just an hour prior to Daylyt. A West Coast bop with witty lines and a smooth flow. In Joey's response, he acknowledges AZ Chike's efforts in just a single line, before moving on to the next bar and totally dismissing him.
Look, Rayvon was so last week. Now I'm hearing shit about some nigga named Ass Cheek.
And honestly, that was the last time we heard of AZ Chike. Several diss tracks would drop this day amongst underground East Coast and West Coast MCs. Some going at Joey, some going at Reason. It was a historical day for hip-hop, May 19th. But the last notable diss track to drop of the night would be Rayvon's anticipated follow-up response to Joey, called GoldenEye. The song was a remix to 50 Cent's classic Back Down. And while Rayvon does bring the energy and some witty lines as always, it seemed like he didn't have much of an angle with the endless Diddy references and baseless homosexuality claims. It felt desperate, and you could tell Rayvon was reaching for the stars to throw any dirt he could on Joey. He seemed lyrically fatigued. There was definitely a handful of people who thought GoldenEye was a solid attempt enough to put him in the lead, but overall the reception of this diss was a mixed bag. The following day, Daylyt would drop a second diss track as a response to both Joey and Loaded Lux on his song called Ayo. And on this track, Daylyt lyrically left Earth and rapped with the ferocity that everyone had been salivating for. This is what we expected. It's like he removed all his restraints and went into his final form. Joey summoning Loaded Lux onto the song really put pressure on Daylyt as to not be outperformed by one of his biggest rivals, having one of the greatest entendres from the battle in general.
Covered all of my tracks to get the playwriting. Scientific fact, it take 10,000 lux to equal Daylyt.
Another phenomenal lyric that comes to mind from this was "The future is your name. Just take an L, you get X'd out. L-U-X Lux." There were still some critiques here and there about the production, but overall, it would seem that this disc got a largely wide positive reception. He ends the song with this dark story of how he's a monster and verbally illustrates him unaliving Joey's fiancée and unborn child. Yeah, that was random. But Daylyt, being the wild card that he is, didn't just stop there. Oh no. Just minutes after he dropped, he would drop another diss sampling Cupid's Whisper. This diss out of any song in the battle got the worst reception by far. The mix was terrible and Daylyt's delivery just did not sound in harmony with the beat at all. He eventually ended up deleting this song altogether. It was not good. But minutes after this song was uploaded, Daylyt would drop another song called Word is Bond, closing the battle with a heart-to-heart tribute to Capital Steez. Yeah, I don't know where this nigga's going. Don't look at me. It's Daylyt. At this point in the battle, everyone is confused as to what the fuck Daylyt is doing. And before you could take your next breath, Joey Badass drops with yet again another response in less than 24 hours of his previous track, this time titled Crash Dummy, primarily finishing off Ray Vaughn, but some say there are verses that may apply to Daylyt as well. Joey takes the sample of Tupac's Hit 'Em Up and just makes this fun West Coast bop while flowing his ass off. Everyone knew Joey was this good, but who knew he was this versatile? And from then on, Joey pretty much has had the upper hand since. And it seems like the battle between all major parties involved, Daylyt, Ray Vaughn, AZ Chike, and Joey, is finally over. Ray Vaughn put up a good fight, and as amazing as a rapper that he is, Joey proved himself to be a little out of his weight class lyrically, and just had the stronger overall songs and angles. Ray Vaughn's biggest flaw in this whole battle was using talking points that also applied directly to him. You make fun of Joey for not having hits when you yourself don't have any, and y'all are both the same age. It's just not a good angle. Ray Vaughn could have never beaten Joey talking about success when Joey is at least 20 times more successful than Ray Vaughn. It has to make sense. Daylyt did great lyrically, but what his disses lacked was clarity. Joey did more with less syllables, more quotables. Daylyt's battle rapper syndrome coming into full display didn't help either. With a lot of his subpar beat choices and rough around the edges flows, Joey's disses were simply more listenable. And Daylyt dropping multiple songs back to back only left people confused with what the objective was. His strategy lacked focus. AZ Chike had a pretty good response that was smoked in one line, and we never got a follow-up response since after that. It was a tactical retreat. I know there are a lot of West Coast and Kendrick Lamar fans right now probably pissed off watching this, but what happened happened. They're calling this era in history Joey versus the West, the Joey saga. And let's be clear, this is not a flattering look for the state of California. You have one East Coast MC who just handled himself without even breaking a sweat against one of TDE's sharpest MCs, one of the greatest battle rappers to come out of the West Coast, and arguably the most promising rising star to come out of LA right now with AZ Chike. All are defeated in front of the world by an East Coast MC. Even if you disagree, the fact that this is even debatable in itself is not a good look. One of the best summarizations of this whole thing actually comes from Twitter. I don't know what world you live in, but if you jump a nigga, he's supposed to get his ass whooped. They jumped that nigga and left damage while Joey never buckled a knee. They failed. The bars was there, but the strategy, the angles, the production didn't match up to one New York nigga. Couldn't have said it better. Daylyt being the best rapper out of everyone involved was like the semi-final boss before the real final boss. If there ever was one rapper from this battle that had the ability to stop Joey in his tracks, it would definitely be this guy. And even he raised the white flag, dropping a song titled End Credits, crowning Joey Badass the King of New York, and congratulating him for running the fade with all of them. It was a beautiful conclusion. Daylyt fought hard, but it wasn't enough. This was like defeating a gym leader in Pokemon and them handing you the badge to go on to the next gym. It had been years since I heard a verse from Joey that sounded like anything close to his All-American Badass era. So I definitely didn't have him coming out on top of this like he did. I was more confident that Ray Vaughn would have finished him. After all, even King Kendrick himself authorized the hit.
Thinking I ain't got his number, bitch, he authorized the hit.
But Joey proved himself to be too powerful for all of the King's goons. Joey has did the impossible. He's defeated the Ginyu force of the West. And now, it's only natural that he takes on the King. Avatar Oklama. Here's the truth. If you think that Kendrick Lamar is too big to respond to his coast getting washed by a newly crowned King of the East, Joey Badass, then you probably don't know Kendrick as well as you thought you did. Kendrick has just secured the throne unanimously more than ever. And with every crown, there's someone out there willing to challenge that. Drake with Pusha T, Jay-Z with 50 Cent, Biggie with Nas. I hope Joey doesn't allow this small victory to get to his head, because the war is far from over. In fact, it may have just begun. Yeah, you may have taken out the goons, but the West Coast General has been watching all of this tyranny from afar. And he's sure to bring the retribution needed to restore California's honor. Unlike Joey's previous opponents, Kendrick is the most well-balanced. He has the technical skill set with the song-making ability and angles to match. Joey is strong, but he may not be strong enough. If King Kendrick does in fact take out the newly crowned King of New York, the West can finally receive the justice that they've been seeking and rest peacefully. But if Avatar Oklama loses, the West Coast may never recover from the slander of defeat to an East Coast rapper. Ever. We'll have to see how the King moves after his tour. Kendrick, we need ya.